everybody. Jesse McGuire here. I'm formerly with Tower Power. I played lead trumpet for them for a number of years, and Esteban and James Brown, a whole bunch of people, Stevie Wonder. And I have to tell you this, in keeping with the theme and the essence of what we're doing here today, there are drummers, and then there are drummers, and then there are the gods of the drum kit. And I'm sitting here with one of them today, a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a long, long time. Wonderful person. We've toured together, had some wild times together, had some fun together, played some really, really great music together. And if you don't know Joe Morris, this is the opportunity that I have to introduce him to the entire world. Not that he hasn't been introduced to the world already, but for those of you that don't know, this is my good friend and my brother from another mother. This is Joe Morris in the house.
Thank you, man.
Man, how you doing, bro?
Good, bro.
I'm happy for you, man. And we just gonna talk, man. You know, we musicians, we brothers, and just talk like we used to talk like we were on when we were back on the road, man.
Yeah.
You know, flying around and meeting up and playing all these different places and stuff. And we're just gonna let people know a little bit about you, man. As much as you know, time and the universe will allow us to divulge right now. So,
hi, kids.
Yeah, hi, kids. So let me ask you this: you've had people approach you before about doing a documentary, or a documentary on your life and your music and your career and everything, and you've canceled them in the past, or kind of postpone them or cancel them, whatever. Why were you hesitant?
Well, there's a couple reasons. The first reason would be, you know, you've known me a long time. I'm pretty much an acquired taste. I say what I want, when I want. I don't care who's around, so I didn't know how that would go over. And B, I don't think I'm that big of a deal. There's so many other drummers that have so much more accomplishments than I do, and they do interviews, and people watch those. So I didn't really know if anybody would watch it, but hopefully they will. In the real world, it's weird because in the real world, I work with a lot of producers and musicians, so I'd say I'm like semi-famous. When the internet world, I don't have time to make drum videos, and I'm not on the major drum internet shows because I just don't have time to do it. And so I just didn't know if anybody would watch it. So that's a little bit, just a few of the reasons. On the documentary thing, I think I might have screwed up a little bit on that because a filmmaker from California named Fred Saig came to me and wanted me to do a film. He wanted to do a documentary, spend a week with me and inside my house and, just a week with me. And I said no, because I didn't want anybody invading my family space that much. And then like a year later, Whiplash came out. So I might have made a mistake on that one. But other than that, I'm doing the interview basically as a legacy for my kids. So my kids can see it. My grandkids can see it. They can know that I played a lot of music for a lot of people, traveled the world. I made a difference. I made a lot of people happy. So it's more about a legacy thing. So that's the only reason I'm finally doing the interview. Even my kids said, yeah, Dad, you should do it. My wife was like, yeah, you should do it. And I'm like, yeah, I should do it. So I'm at least doing the interview. And my biggest reason is my kids don't even like being on my Instagram. They don't like being on my social media. We keep it pretty private. So I don't think they would have been into it anyways. And when I'm home, I'm just dad. And that's like one of my favorite things to do.
Is that why you were hesitant to do this? Because you maybe felt like you couldn't be yourself, or?
I didn't want to try to be somebody else that I wasn't. I didn't want to sit here and go, well, thank you for asking, Mr. McGuire.
Okay.
And yes, touring was wonderful, and I enjoyed all of it because that would just be bullshit. Nobody talks about, the other side of touring. Mm-hmm. Not that it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It's the best hour and a half of your life, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think everything has an underbelly. Music is no different. There's always a down. I know I've had a downside to my music career, and everybody does. But like you said, everybody doesn't want to talk about that. and bring it out to the fore so that everybody can, you know.
It's not a negative thing to me. It's just like, don't make it sound, everything's not great all the time. It's not a disaster, but I mean, it's a struggle. It's a different life being a musician. I don't think people realize the whole scope of how it is to be a professional musician. When you say you're a professional musician, that means the only way you're incurring income, so say I'm a professional drummer. The only way I'm putting food on the table for my family, getting my kids through college, high school, making the house payments, making the car payments, is playing the drums.
Right.
That's it. If you have any other form of income, if you're a realtor, you work at a bank, then, I mean, God bless you. I mean, I wouldn't want to take the joy of the instrument away from you, but you're not a professional drummer.
Right.
You're a drummer that has a day job.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they don't understand the strife that you have to go through to make sure you're making it that week, you know, so you can support your family. So
You have had, well, you still have a magnificent career, man, and there are a lot of drummers out there I know that are just in awe of you. Can you give us an idea just how did it start, man?
Well, my uncle was a drummer in New York. He played in Manhattan and Buffalo, New York, at a place called the Big Apple. He was a pretty well-known drummer, and Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, when they were in town, used to come in and see him play. And as young as 3 years old, my mom used to take me to see my Uncle Bob play, Bob Shiner. And I just got the fever, man, at a very young age. I thought it was amazing. Plus, there was always music in my house. Nat King Cole, big band music, Benny Goodman. So there was always music flowing in my house. Plus, I come from a Lebanese family, so there was always Lebanese music playing. We had these things called haflis, where like Greek people get together and Lebanese people, and everybody dances around. And I'd get to jam with my uncles at a young age. So I immediately wanted to be a drummer when at 3, 4 years old. And then my parents ended up getting divorced, so my mother sent me to live with my grandparents for a while she straightened out everything in Buffalo, New York. So my grandfather sold produce, so there were bushel baskets around all the time. So I started banging on the bushel baskets, and my grandparents must have noticed, and then they talked to my mom, so I started taking drum lessons. So I went through a couple teachers. One of my favorite teachers was a guy by the name of Angelo Stella. I took lessons from him in Plymouth, Pennsylvania at his drum school. He was an amazing drummer. He used to sit in he knew Buddy Rich. His son, Billy Stella, was another amazing drummer. I think he still carries on the tradition of the drum school in Plymouth, PA. First drum teacher that I ever had that played piano in the lessons. So I thought that was instrumental. So while I was growing up, during that time, my mother was taking me to Atlantic City, New Jersey, to the ballrooms to see big bands and other bands play. So at a young age, I went to see Gene Krupa play with Duke Ellington. I went to see the Temptations. I went to see Buddy Rich on numerous times at a smaller club in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania called the Highlight Lounge. I saw Maynard Ferguson in that same place. So I was just being inundated by music. I mean, when I went to saw Maynard, I got to talk to Peter Erskine when I was like 15 years old and hung out with him for a while. And then when I was in high school, I had a band director by the name of Ron Schmoyer, who used to be lead trumpet player for Stan Kenton's band. So he brought in amazing charts and was another, huge influence on me and brought me along through high school. So I was in marching band, jazz band, but the dilemmas started for me in high school at a young age. My high school went from 7th grade to 12th grade. So by the time I got to high school, I had been playing for a couple years, and I was pretty good, especially for a little guy. So I get there and I audition for the band at Myers High School, and I beat all the other drummers. 2 of them were seniors. I was in 7th grade. It caused this huge uproar, like their mothers called the principal and said their son should be able to play. It was their last year, and I was going to have 4 more years. So immediately at that age, I'm dealing with politics. So it came down to they sat the 3 of us down and said, okay, this is the way it's going to go, and Joe gets the pick. One guy would get to play 5 songs, the other guy would get to play 5 songs, and one guy would get a drum solo. I took the drum solo. What did I learn from taking the drum solo? Girls like drummers. I learned that in high school at an early age. So I'm not gonna lie, that was half my motivation was I figured out at that age that women liked musicians. So anyway, I went from there to orchestra, district orchestra, state orchestra. And then the other thing I started doing coming up was I started playing with older guys on the weekends. I started playing weddings, bar mitzvahs. So like I'm 15 years old, I can't even drive yet. My grandfather's driving me to these gigs, and I'm playing with guys that are like 25 that are doing drugs and drinking, and we're playing yes tunes at weddings. And it kept progressing from there.
You did marching band?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Had to. If you didn't do marching band, my high school went from 7th grade to 12th grade. So if you didn't do marching band, you couldn't be in jazz band,
Yeah.
you couldn't be in orchestra, you couldn't be in anything. You had to do marching band. So yeah, I marched. I had the uniform and the plume and the hat.
Yeah.
And the white bucks.
Oh my goodness, not that.
Yeah.
Really?
Parades, you name it, I did it.
Wow. And your friend who played with Stan Kenton, man, I might have heard him play because I remember hearing Stan Kenton's band on an audition I had from high school to I had for a college band.
No kidding.
At the audition, Stan Kenton's band played the clinic during the day and then the concert at night. And I got to hear Stan Kenton's band play live one time, and I might have heard him.
There's a great
for
trumpet.
him to play in that kind of a band, and then to have him input into your life, man, that had to be incredible.
I just figured out when talking to him last month that he was only like 5 years older than me.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he's a young cat coming in to be band director.
Okay.
You know, had the leisure suit back then and the long wavy hair and get out and play that trumpet. We'd all be like, shit, wow, I've never heard anybody play an instrument like that.
Wow. Okay. So then, marching band, symphony orchestra, graduated and everything. When did the actual touring start?
I actually started touring when I was in college. Like my first or second year of college, I ended up meeting a bunch of guys in school. We had a band called the SK Connection, and we were doing pretty good, man. It didn't do much for my grades. I obviously didn't go to college to tour, but it just ended up that way. We'd play a lot in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh, and then we started traveling down the PA Turnpike. You can tour for a while and not leave Pennsylvania. So I was doing that for a while, and a guy picked us up from Fox Management and handled our band. And while he was handling our band, he ended up to be him and another guy. It was actually 3 guys, ended up being the first company to come out with touring software. So all of a sudden, I had access to all these tours. So in some capacity, I was out with U2, Sting, Whitney Houston, Hall & Oates. Oh, man, there's so many different bands. Prince, Paul Cotton, Esteban. I still go out and do my DJ gigs with famous DJs. So I instantly, those are just some of the people that I've been out with. And of course, Esteban, if I didn't say that before, but we'll talk about that later. So, I mean, I had access to all these tours in some capacity, and things were going pretty good. And then I finished that, and after college, I ended up using some of the influences and people that I met and did another couple major tours with some of those bands. And so I did that for about a year or more, a year and a half or so. And then that was it. I thought while I was out, this is it. My career has been crazy, man. It's been so up and down. It's like one night I'm playing in front of 20,000 people, and the next night I'm playing a country bar at Joe's Steakhouse. So I've really had to learn how to balance it. So after touring for a while, I had to start B-touring. So I started B-touring with a guy named Marty. We traveled all over the place. It was like a variety band. He used to tell me that I had the wrong ride cymbal that made his PA feedback. There was another guy in the band that Eric Summerfield, God bless him, gave me plenty of laughs during helping me make it through the night. He literally would tell the audience to go fuck themselves and how much he hated his life and how much he didn't want to be there. I was doing those kind of gigs. I'm laughing now, but trust me, I wasn't laughing then. I did a couple Department of Defense tours, and I also toured with another band called Barely Legal, which was a great band. I got to give those guys props. If anybody asked me the most fun I've ever had on a tour, it would be with Mike Wood, Hal Monty, Dan Bell, and Mel Travis. I traveled with those guys in a bus for like 2 years in a band called Barely Legal, and it was a B tour, and I didn't make a whole lot of money, but it was probably the most. It was the only. Let's put it this way: it's the only band I've ever been in that we pulled into a gas station, and the gas station shut down for a day. I won't. I won't go into why, but I got to give kudos to those guys because those guys were great to tour with. So when I finally got done doing the B touring thing, I wanted to settle down for a while. So I moved back home to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from, and played in some bands around there. And then I got this audition for this really popular band there, a cover band. They were like the shit. They were the band in town that you wanted to be in. You could make a living. They gigged all the time. They somewhat traveled, and the band was awesome. And so I go to the audition. I kill the tunes. The guys go have a meeting. They come back, and the guy looks at me and goes, "Look, man, you're the best drummer we had in here, but we can't hire you because you're too good and somebody's going to pick you up. So we can't have you in the band." I didn't know what to fucking say. I mean, it was the first time I didn't get a gig because I was too good. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm not getting A tours right now, so I must not be good enough. I can't get this band because I'm too good. So, I mean, it was rough, man. So I just went back home and I decided, it was time to make a change. I had to do something. So I packed up my stuff and I moved to Philadelphia. I reunited with some of my band members that I was in with SK Connection and joined in a band they had. We put a band together called Little Buddy under the same Fox management, and I started touring with them. So I was playing in Little Buddy, and we were playing around Philly, and I kind of stood out in the band. So I started getting offers in Philadelphia to work with other bands. So I played in this guy's big band. And then I was introduced to what's called ghost drumming, which in those days, everybody's pitch to me was, oh, the exposure will be really good for you. The money's not going to be great, but the exposure will be awesome. So it's ghost drumming where I went and would play on national artists' albums, but not get a credit. They would just credit the normal drummer or not give a credit, but I wouldn't get a credit because now that I'm older, I know why. It's because the original drummer never knew he got replaced. So it was ghost drumming. So I got paid and I played on, at least not a ton, like 2 or 3 records, one which ended up to be a hit that I still hear on the radio that haunts me to this day, but I signed a piece of paper, so I'll keep my word. So I was introduced to ghost drumming, and I kept touring around Philadelphia with Little Buddy and doing that, and then my mom passed away, and that changed everything for me. I had met my wife like a few weeks before, and man, when my mom died, I was like, that was a life changer right there. So I knew I had to get it together, and I had a whole new motivation, and I was pretty educated. I did a lot of A touring, I did a ton of B touring, and at that point, I had a lot of experience.
What did you take away from that helped you professionally?
How the business works.
Okay.
I learned
I
learned how the management worked. I learned how the tour accounting worked. I learned how the promoters worked. I paid attention to everything.
Yeah.
I learned what the musicians should say and not say.
Right.
There was a guy there that had a suggestion about a part in the song on a Wednesday. We had a new guitar player on Thursday. So I learned to shut up. That was the one thing I did. You know how it is, because when you first joined the band in Esteban, you know how I knew that you were a pro, even though I knew your resume, I knew you were an amazing trumpet player. You didn't talk for like 2 weeks. And I was sitting there going, yeah, he's going to be all right.
Wow.
He's just checking out what's going on. Because if you want to learn your environment. So I learned how not to be outspoken, and I just learned to shut up and listen, see what was going on, feel out the vibe of the gig.
Yeah. Now, is that, was that the moment or the thing that propelled you into wanting to be a pro drummer?
No, I
Full-time
always
pro drummer?
wanted to be a pro drummer.
Always?
Ever
Okay.
since I was a baby. That's all I ever wanted to do was make enough money playing the drums so I didn't have to have a day job.
Okay,
Period.
that's interesting.
Because it's a hard transition, man. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. I decided to become a sideman. Like I said, I'll give you this quick one. I went back to Philly to join my other bandmates. Now, in the meantime, I hadn't met my wife. We weren't married yet. We were dating. So she didn't even know I was a drummer. I met her at a dinner function through the company that I was mailroom supervisor at.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I wasn't making enough money playing music. I was basically losing money. We'd go to the Lone Star Cafe in Manhattan. We'd drive 2 hours from Philly, play in New York. We toured all over the place, but we weren't making any money. It was, I was a band guy. I was in it for the long run to be in the band. So me and the wife are dating, so I invite her to a gig. She's never seen me play before. So she comes to the gig, she watches the band, the gig's over. I come up to her, I said, "What do you think?" She said, "Well, I'll tell you, they suck. It's one of the worst bands I've ever heard in my life, but you're pretty good."
Yeah.
And that day, the next day I quit. And I decided I was gonna be sideman.
Okay. Now that's an interesting point. We were talking earlier, and I asked you the question. You said, "Joe, man, what's the difference between being a sideman and a band member?" I think that is just so fascinating the way you broke that down, man. So listen.
Well, because if you're a band member, you're invested.
Okay.
Let's say it's a 4-piece band, you're all invested in the band. So you work on the band. Well, in all the bands I was in, I did all the promo. I came up with ideas, I helped book gigs, and everybody else just played.
Yeah.
But you're invested. That's your gig. It's a group effort. When you're a sideman, it's all on you. So it just hit me like, why not put all the effort I'm putting into the bands and just put it into myself?
Yeah.
And so that's the difference to me. When you're a sideman, you're a whore. You got a check, I got a gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People call, you go play. You get a reputation that you're good and you can cut the gig, and mainly you're not an asshole and you're good to hang with, then you're going to get the work. And I enjoy being a sideman because I'm accountable for me.
Yeah.
Because it just ended up in my career. It's obviously not like that in everybody's career because there's plenty of successful bands, but somebody in the band would screw it up. Do something to screw up moving forward.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to screw it up. I was on a mission.
Band. Oh, see now, this is all coming real fast, man. Band dynamics is that, and it's much different when you're just a sideman and you're there for one night, you play the gig and go home, as opposed to when you're a member of a band.
Right.
Then you got to deal with all the crap that goes with being.
It's a lot
in a band.
more bullshit.
I get that, man. I really do. And some of my greatest trials and tribulations on the road were with bands that I was a member of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I get all that, man. Yeah.
You're accountable. Everybody's accountable. Somebody else screws up, it's still on you.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, I gotta ask you, man. In terms of, check this out. In terms of people that have like mentored you in your life, or that had like a profound influence in your life, who were they, and how did they influence you?
Well, when I decided to become a sideman, I discovered the thing called the NAMM show.
Okay.
When I was like 21, which is where back then it was more geared towards the artist and people that had endorsements. So I didn't have any endorsements, but I got turned on to the NAMM show, and I forget where I got my first badge from. It wasn't from an endorsement company because I didn't have any, but I got into my first NAMM show, and it was just, wow. It was amazing. I met like a lot of my heroes, and I walked around and I talked to a lot of people, and I wasn't playing for anybody back then, but I sat down and did some playing while I was there. I was there 4 days the first time I went. I spent the whole time. So I ended up actually, to make a long story short, I left there with a drum endorsement with Impact Drums, a Meinl cymbal endorsement. This was my first NAMM show.
Wow.
I left there with a stick endorsement. I can't remember. I think they were like Heartwood drumsticks or something like that, from sitting down and playing. So I did develop a few endorsements on my. Now back then, I got endorsements. I didn't play for anybody, man. I was playing for a power trio called Little Buddy in Philadelphia. Nobody knew, you know what I mean? I hadn't toured. I was in B bands, and you could get endorsements back then if you could play.
Yeah.
So what happened was another company hired me for my second year at the NAMM show to play on their practice pad sets.
Wow.
In the middle of Hall D, where all the drums are. So I'm like, great. I get to showcase my talent for 4 days in front of other musicians. I'm stoked, man. I'm like 22, so I get in there and I'm doing my thing. I'm playing my ass off every day. Like that somebody had a gun in my mouth. I mean, back then, 22, I was shedding. I was in the Dennis Chambers and Steve Gadd and Vital Information. I listened to a lot of Miles Davis. I liked jazz and funk. So anyway, I'm playing this kit, and I would play like 3 or 4 times during the day. There were certain, and the other day I would look around the gear and stuff. So anyway, in the middle of my first day, I get done playing, and I put my sticks down, and I'm coming down the steps, and I look up, and Dennis Chambers is standing right in front of me, man. And I said, oh, shit. I just thought to myself, man, I'm so glad I didn't see him while I was playing. Because I probably would have just went, just froze up, right?
Yeah.
And he looked at me square in the face and said, man, I like the way you play. I haven't seen somebody play with heart like that in a long time.
Yeah.
Would you like to hang out with me for a while?
What?
I said, yeah.
Really?
So I walked around with Dennis to the NAMM show. He went to different booths and he introduced me to different people and was giving me some props, and we exchanged phone numbers. I talked to Dennis a month ago just to see how he was doing, and we became friends.
Yeah.
He wasn't. It's the weird thing of the pros that I've met. We really don't talk about drums. We talk about, how's your family, man?
Yeah.
How's your wife? How you feeling? Okay. How's your health? You know, and then of course we'll talk a little bit about playing. But just imagine at 22 years old, man. I was already listening to Petite Blonde, which was a band he was in. He played with John McLaughlin. And he was one of my favorite drummers. I mean, Dennis Chambers was like my hero. And here I am hanging out. I mean, I went home to my wife like, I can't believe what happened. I hooked up with Dennis Chambers. It's a funny story, too, because we didn't have 2 lines and I didn't have an office yet back then. So Dennis called the house once after I had met him, and my wife answered the phone, and she didn't like when business calls came through the house.
I know, you told me about that. Yeah.
So she was rude to Dennis. He's not here right now. You'll have to call his business phone. Dennis didn't have my business number, right? Because I just didn't give it to him. So the next time he called me, the first thing he said, hey, bro, what's up with your wife? I said, man, don't be calling my house, man. Call this number.
Yeah.
Because at that time, things were really different. You didn't text anybody. You weren't emailing people. I miss that. Since we came across that, you called people.
Yeah.
You spoke to. I talked to a lot of people, man. I used to make phone calls like crazy and check up. But he was huge. I mean, that was such a boost for me.
Wow.
Having a guy like that, take interest with me. I remember sending him a VHS cassette of excerpts from a jazz concert I did, and he called me and said, hey, man, you got any more of that?
Wow.
And so I sent him more. So we don't talk a lot, but he's doing great. And then I met Roy Burns, who's my drum head company. God rest his soul. He passed away a couple years ago. He was a great drummer, and he owned part owner in Aquarian Drumheads that I endorse. And since, when I was a kid, the guy just used to hang out with me and teach me about the drum lessons. Roy looked at me once, he's like, let me ask you something. I'm a kid. These guys are in their 70s.
Yeah.
He played with Count Basie. And, he's like, let me ask you something, Joe. When you're on a gig, do you smile? And I said, well, yeah. He goes, don't let him see you smile. I'm going to cut your pay. He's the guy that got me. He talks about me in his interview, only he forgets my name. He calls me the drummer from Arizona.
Oh, wow.
He got me over the. I could play in front of 1 million people, man. I never got nervous. But when I did drum clinics back in the day, I did a lot of clinics. I used to get really nervous. Not play up to my full potential. I'd be tight, just like doing this, I don't like the talk. This is like my best effort at talking.
Yeah.
So I used to get really nervous, which as drummers would know, it tightens you up so you're not playing. So I went to Roy after I did it a couple of times. I'm like, I'm out there embarrassing myself, man. I'm not playing 100%. I'm not playing to my full potential because I'm nervous. And he looks at me and he says, what the fuck are you nervous for? Because you're playing for a bunch of drummers. They're not going to hire you. I never got nervous at the clinic.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I never got nervous. So he was, being able to sit down with a guy like that. And throughout the years, I kept going back. I played Defender stage at NAMM shows, so I got to play like with Anthony Jackson, Marcus Miller, you name it. Like every major bass player, Ray Riendow. I did a record at Steve Vai's studio from working at the NAMM show. I mean, I played with so many great cats. Back in the day, I'd sit down between Bernard Purdy and Hal Blaine and just listen to them tell me stories.
Wow.
I've sat between Clyde Stubblefield and Jabo Starks and had them talk to me about James's gig. And when I was like 25 years old, it was like heaven. I mean, I went to a party and Kenny Arnoff was next to me. Billy Cobham it was a Vic Firth party. I mean, so I've gotten to know a lot of my heroes, and it's been cool. It's been a cool hang. So I at least want to give props to those people because, and one of the other guys that really helped me a lot and taught me so much about the business and endorsements is John Bermuda Schwartz, the drummer from Weird Al Yankovic. We're both Ludwig endorsers now, and back in the day, we both endorsed Impact Drums. And from my first NAMM show, I met him, and he's just been he lent me his drum set to audition for a cattle call in LA to get a tour. I'd known the guy like 2 months.
Really?
I sent him a bottle of champagne.
There you go.
But he's always coached me along. And now we're both Ludwig endorsers again after all these years, and just always helped me. There were a lot of guys that helped me, taught me, the way to handle things and taught me a lot about the business.
Wow, that's cool.
That was an invaluable.
That is real. You know something, man? I got a confession to make. I toured for 2 years with Tower Power, and they're known for playing at the NAMM show.
No, one of my favorite bands, bro.
And I have never been to a NAMM show.
You didn't play at the NAMM show at Tower Power?
Nope, never been to a NAMM show. So what I'm trying to
The king of the national anthem, in case you didn't know, actually got the Eagles through the Super Bowl. Thank you very much. So,
but what I'm trying to glean from you right now is the importance of people coming together in a big event like that. Because I never really understood how important it was for musicians to hang together. And I'll tell you why. Because drummers and guitar players, they strike me as the kind of people that would trade ideas. Man, what is this? What kind of strings you doing? What kind of heads? What kind of cymbals and all that stuff? But trumpet players, man, it's like, yeah, man, I can play it an octave higher than you can, and it's that kind of thing.
The horn section is pretty small at the NAMM show.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
So
I
never really saw the need to go.
That's too bad, man.
Yeah.
But now I wouldn't say, I can say what I want. It's my fucking interview.
Yes, it is.
The NAMM show, I've been if I go this year, which I won't, it'd be like my 34th year. I went last year. But it's changed. If you were an artist before, you were really paid attention to, and you could check out the new gear and thank you. And I'd always go to say thank you to my endorsement companies.
Yeah.
I felt it was my responsibility to go there. And of course I want to see what they have out new for the next year, but I'm not there to gouge their stuff. I'm there to say thanks for the support.
Yeah.
Man, I was just so blessed to have the endorsement. I've had the endorsements I have. Ludwig's my newest endorsement. I think this is my 3rd or 4th year with them. I didn't have a drum endorsement for a long time because I didn't want one. But all my other companies, like for my cymbals, Meinl, Vic Firth, Aquarian, anybody else I'm forgetting, Shell Key. I've been with those companies over 30 years.
Wow.
So I stay loyal to my endorsement companies. I'm not a jumper.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And you're right. The whole horn thing at the NAMM show, I guess, is a lot different than it would be at like IAJE.
Well, anymore, it's more geared towards the retailers. You know what I mean? They want to talk to the retailers and get their stuff out to the stores, and you'll come up and go, thanks a lot. And I'll go, yeah, okay, man. Good seeing you. Go fuck yourself. I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't know why I go anymore. It's like, yeah, you're still using our stuff. You've been with us a long time. We got a lot of young cats coming up that are probably going to kick your ass, but thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
I mean, if, in the drumming community, I've talked to my friend Bermuda Schwartz about this earlier because I was getting kind of hurt because I'm getting at the end of my career, you know. I mean, the next big band is I do a lot of recording though.
Yeah.
I'm recording on a famous young pop band's record right now, but I'm not going to talk about that. So from my experience, I do get a lot of good session work, but in the pro drumming industry, if you're not Steve Gadd or Vinnie Colaiuta, if you're not a Dennis Chambers, if you're not a legend, when you're done, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not gonna. I always expected maybe when I was on the lease for my endorsement, maybe I'd get a dinner or a plaque. Thanks for 30 years. Just no, you get cut. That's what happens.
Man.
So I mean, when you're done, you're done. That's why my family is. Always if I would have never made it this far without my wife, man.
I hear you, bro.
There's no way. I'd have been in jail, or it would be ugly. My wife kept me. God bless my wife. That's been. I don't know how she's been married to me. I've been married like 33 years. Got 3 great kids. I don't think I would have made it. I would have not made it through any of that. My wife has been. You better have a supportive woman. If you have a woman at home and you want to be a professional musician, you better have some support.
Yes,
my wife
sir.
was the kind of wife where I'd go to and like, look, babe, I got to fly out on Christmas Eve. I'm doing a Christmas concert with Esteban on Christmas night, and then I'll be back on the 26th. And she'd go, okay, we'll have Christmas on the 26th. Not following me around the house with a flipping shotgun.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I would have never, I had support. My wife, there was even a point in my life where my wife was like, if you want to go further and move to LA, I'll hold down the fort here while you do that.
No.
If you want to take your career farther. But we talk about it, and I think I took it as far as I wanted to take it because I always made it a point to be home. I always flew back. I'd fly back from the East Coast just to umpire one of my girls' softball games.
Yeah.
When they were 5, you're not gonna. I took off every day and went to like 58 wrestling matches when my son was a wrestler.
I remember.
And that's why I enjoyed touring with Steven so much because he was understanding about it. So, I think without my family, it'd be ugly.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have made it as far as I made it without the support I got from my
That's
wife.
wonderful, man. And we're gonna talk more about them in here in just a little bit. But now, I think what everybody wants to know is how did the Esteban gig come about, and how did you get hooked up here at the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences? How did all that happen?
It kind of happened simultaneously. I started working here, a guy named Scott Novak. I'll give you the quick version, we'll be here forever.
All right.
A guy named Scott Novak asked me if I wanted to do a drum clinic. I met him cutting a record on another session, but he worked here. He's like, we need drummers. This is 28 years ago. So I came in, did the drum clinic. It was cool though. I mean, I came down, I did the clinic, I liked the school, and then it just snowballed. The school got bigger and bigger. I mean, the conservatory is one of the best recording schools you can go to. Everybody, it's great. Every day I'm surrounded. If I have a question about Logic or Pro Tools, anything I'm working on, I got guys everywhere.
Wow.
So, I mean, the school snowballed. I snowballed along with it. We developed a music program. Now I'm the music director, but I'm a subcontractor. I probably want to make that known for the F-bombs that I dropped during the interview. Because I'm just a subcontractor. I don't actually work for the conservatory, but I've been there 28 years. I have a great, Kurt Ham owns the school. I have a great relationship with him.
Yeah.
It's been a blessing, man. I have a steady studio gig. So a guy that works here, who now is the director of education, Mr. Robert Brock.
Brock.
Right.
Yeah.
You toured with Brock,
Yes,
and Brock
sir.
toured with us with Esteban.
Yes, sir, he did.
Worked here and asked me if I'd like to play on a record. He played for Steven then. Steven's Esteban. I don't say Esteban, I say Steven.
Yeah.
So I did. So I went and did the session, and he offered me a gig, and I started playing the Hyatt with him as soon as I got done playing on that record. And it's been 28 years.
Wow.
28 years I've been on that gig. And it's another blessing.
Good.
I love Steven. I always, that's why I've been with him so long.
Yeah.
He treats me right, and the gig started at the Hyatt, and then you get on the gig, and then the shit hit the fan. Then and all of a sudden that gig just went. I thought this was it. I was at the point where that gig started where I just wanted to be a studio drummer.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go on the road anymore. I liked being home and stuff like that. Somebody turned down the fucking air conditioning. It's freezing here again. Anyway. So
that's good. That's good.
So
this is real stuff.
So we play the Hyatt, right?
Yeah.
And somebody from HSN sees us, and then you were on the gig, and then the gig turned into a band, and the gig exploded, man. For an independent artist, I don't think I've ever been that happy musically when we were touring together.
Yeah.
We were killing it.
That was good times, man.
We were killing it, and Esteban was killing it, and he was a great guy to work for.
Yeah.
Just not a guy that I toured with. Well, I don't like talking about other tours. Other tours, you're a hired gun. It's like we watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction thing the other night, and we watched Stevie Nicks play, and my wife said, "Isn't that great?" And I said, "Well, it's great for her. The other guy's got $800 and a plane ticket home." I mean, that's the reality of the situation, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy that if I had to bring my kids to the studio while we cut a record, he'd bring them coloring books and Beanie Babies.
Wow.
It used to freak me out. I was like, this guy is legit. Take our families to Disneyland every year. Here's a wad of cash. Here's your tickets. Have a good time with your family. Your hotel's covered.
Wow.
I'm like, I've never played. Esteban Stevens has been like a part of my heart for a long time.
Yeah.
And I am blessed to be on that gig this long.
That's good. And I remember the music too, man. How sincere it was.
Oh,
you know, especially at the Hyatt, man. When you told me that there was a guy in Phoenix playing a guitar with black hat on, dark glasses, and he was playing up at the Hyatt, and during the breaks, there was a line as far as you could see,
Like hundreds.
3 people wide. Buying his CDs with cash money.
Yeah.
And I said, there ain't no way in the world that is happening here, Phoenix, Arizona,
It's
until I
amazing.
got on that gig. I kid you not. And then there was Esteban signing autographs and signing CDs. And then there was Joe collecting the money.
Yeah, he used to pay me
beautiful.
extra to sit up there with him.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, you sit up with me, bro, and open the CD so I could sign
Yeah.
them. Because so many freaking people were I was like, the first time I walked in there, the gig, they had some guys helping me bring my gear in, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking around, there's 1,000 people in the lobby. They got the doors open. There's
Yeah.
people. I looked at the guy helping me. I said, oh, so you guys got like a banquet going on here or something tonight? It's like Wednesday.
Yeah.
The guy looks at me and goes, no, man, those people are here to see you, bro. It's like that every night.
Yeah.
I'm like, they ain't here to see me. He's like, well, they're here to see him. And it was like that every night.
Yeah.
And then that gig exploded.
Yeah.
Exploded. Those are good days. Though.
Good days, man.
Life was simple.
Yeah. And I will tell you this. I don't think that there's a man on the planet that could play a montuno like Joe Morris did. It was just it lifted you up, man. It made you want to just play, you know.
The Montuno from the White Bald guy.
Yeah. Well, you had a little bit up here back in
then
the
I
day,
did.
man.
But that gig is still, I'm playing with him coming this weekend. So I still play with him a lot.
Yeah.
We still tour. We still do, and we get along better than that. We've been together forever.
Yeah.
And his daughter Teresa's in the band, and Raul, and we have a great time. But when we were hitting it back then, doing HSN and stuff, I mean, people don't realize, dude, we were #1 on Billboard. We were beating Britney Spears on
Yeah.
the Billboard charts for years. An independent instrumental band. Independent.
Yeah.
And he turned down all kinds of bread to sell his catalog. I know he did. And he always stayed true to who he was. And I just always, he's a big part of my heart. I love Steven.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
That gig was a blessing. And he knows my kids, my wife. I became a band member whether I wanted to or
There you
not.
go.
Like,
I hear
speaking of it, I'm definitely known as, I always tried to keep my own identity by doing other gigs with other people because I work a lot.
Yeah.
But everybody knows I'm Esteban's drummer. That'll stay, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You know, I got nothing. It's a blessing for me to have that gig this long, man.
Speaking of longevity, what's the secret, man? The secret to your longevity.
Don't be an asshole. It's pretty easy. There's a lot of drummers that are better than me. I mean, I'm telling you right now, and I thank you for everything that you said, but there's a lot of drummers that are really good too, but you only work an hour and a half a night. So if you're a dick, those 22 hours between that, I was touring. Oh, it was fantastic. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Because some of those days, you got to have people that can roll with it, man.
Yeah.
You've been on the road.
I've been there.
Travel all those hours, get to the hotel. Sorry, sir, no one put down a credit card to pay for your room. So we're just hanging out in the lobby and eat potato chips until the manager comes and pays for the rooms. Oh, sorry, man, we forgot to pick you up.
Oh, man.
Don't worry about it. We only flew 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you guys needed monitors? I mean, people make it sound so great, but it's not that easy. Now, don't get me wrong, that hour and a half is the most joyful time of your life, right? Those times we played together, man, I remember me and you staying after a gig one night, sitting down on the drum riser. The gig had been over for hours and we didn't leave. Remember that? Because when you leave, the gig is over.
Yeah.
And we stayed. That's how good that.
Yeah.
I can't explain that feeling to anybody. I can't, because you know it. You know what I mean? But that's what makes it all worth it, man. I've had some moments. We played the Celebrity Theater after 9/11 with
That's
Esteban.
right. Yeah.
And those people who lit those candles and we played Amazing Grace. That's something I'll take with me, you know. There are some special moments on that gig.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, you were asking me, I think I totally blew off your question. What kept me around so long?
Yeah.
And I said, don't be an asshole. You got to be a good hang. You know, be a good team member. Don't be a dick. I mean, I've had guys come on this. Was in charge of the band, you know, when the whole time we were out doing the home shopping stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be amazing. Band members would come and go, but it's amazing the dynamic of people that would come and just think it's like, just shut up. Like when you came on a gig, you checked it out. So you have to be a pro, be on time, for God's sake. Be ready, be prepared, do your job. Just do a good job, be a good band member. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's not that hard.